choose someone like me to carry your victory. Perfection could never earn it. You give what we don't deserve, and you take the broken things and raise them to glory. You are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you won, and I am who you say I am. Crown me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. Oh, come on, Ram Church, sing it out. And now I can finally see it. You're teaching me how to receive it. So let all the striving cease. Oh, and this is my victory. You are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you've won, and I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. Oh, we're seated with Jesus in heaven this morning. Oh, we're seated with you, Lord. Oh, sing this out. When I lift my voice, and when I lift my voice and shout, every wall comes crashing down. I have the authority Jesus has given me. When I open up my mouth, miracles start breaking out. I have the authority that Jesus has given me. Oh, sing it out. When I lift my voice and shout, every wall
What a beautiful time of worship. There's nothing to me like those moments where we get to really unify our hearts as a community in gratitude to God. And it connects us together, but it also connects us with God, which is such a beautiful moment. And I just want to encourage you, everything we do here at Ramp Church is available on demand. So you can always go back and listen to that, just experience that worship again, maybe even in your own time. But now we get to move into a different type of worship. We're going to worship through our giving, and we're going to worship through the giving of tithes and offerings. If you're new to Ramp Church, such a very warm welcome to you. I couldn't think of a better place for you to be on a Sunday morning. We're really thankful that you choose to spend a few minutes with us here gathered together. This is Ramp Church right now. This is where we gather in an online space. But the good news is we're in the middle of a season of the returning of in-person gatherings. So we've started in-person worship and prayer gatherings. We have our third one tonight. But unfortunately, if you haven't already registered, there's probably no spots left unless somebody is canceled maybe in the last few minutes. So you can always check it out, ramp.church/MCR. You can reserve your seats there. But those have been incredible. And we're also looking ahead to resuming our full in-person services. What I mean by full, well, that's when we start with our kids ministry back again. Ramp Youth are going to be meeting again on Sunday mornings. So those full gatherings are starting next week, next Sunday, July 25th. And that's in accordance with what we've heard the government has said, that this week the lockdown restrictions are lifting. And we are so grateful for that. So we cannot wait to meet with you, Ramp Church. Now, our worship and prayer gatherings the past few Sunday nights have had a restricted attendance in line with COVID guidelines. So we'll be able to expand the amount of people we can actually get into our services, which is great news. And of course, all of those lockdown restrictions that we've been really honoring with hand sanitizer and masks and social distancing and all those things are not going to be in place. But I know some of you are still maybe a bit nervous about returning to in-person gatherings. Hey, it's fine. Bring your mask. Just bring that with you. And I think that's going to help give you peace of mind, but it will also be a little signal to the people around you. I'm a bit more cautious about this environment, so I think that mask is almost a little sign that says, maybe let's not hug, or maybe let's keep our distance here. And that's going to be a great way that we can even communicate to each other, kind of without communicating to each other, that I'm still not 100% comfortable with things opening as normal. And we, Ramp Church, as a community, let's just respect that. Everybody has a different comfort level. And we've learned that even from you in the surveys that we've done in the weeks past, where you've let us know the vast majority of you are just ready to come back. But there are still some of you that are a bit cautious, so that is okay. And if you're even beyond that caution level, where even the mask thing and the being in person thing is a bit too much, not to worry. Ramp Church Online will continue. So this space online is going to be here, and you'll be able to join our gatherings. That's why we have an in-person and an online gathering. And it's going to be just as rich and just as rewarding as it has been for the past 16 months, as God's moved in incredible ways in your life and my life as we've met online. So there's different ways to continue to be engaged in Ramp Church, and all of them are important, all of them are vital, and all of them are fruitful in your life and in my life moving forward. So excited. Now, all the details for that in-person service are going to be announced this week, midweek. So you need to keep your eyes peeled to our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, and we're going to announce all the details pertaining to that, because all of the details for our venue, they really are like coming last minute. We are right at the wire here with trying to get every single last detail in place. But there's a lot we do know. The big part we do know is we're going to be meeting. So we're really thankful about that. But the exact details, those are to come. So there's going to be a video that's released. Our team has been working feverishly and passionately to make this possible as soon as these lockdown restrictions lift. So if you're excited about that, would you just let that be known in the comments section? Just say something like, can't wait. Put some hands waving emojis. Put some heart on fire emojis, whatever. Just let it be known. I'm gonna be there. Just let other people know I'm going to be there. So if you are new to our Ramp Church family, there's absolutely no obligation to give today. We, as a faith family, love to give. We love to live generous lives, lives that are open to the world around us, that sees needs and meets those needs. And also we believe not only in the power of meeting needs, the power to connect one to another, but we also know that reflects the heart of God, because he gave what was most valuable to him. Now, one of the things I love to think about is what is going to last into eternity. So what about your life and my life now is actually going to continue when we pass into eternity, when our short 70, 80, 90, maybe 100 years here ends and we go into eternity. And there's so much that isn't going to last. I mean, think about, for example, the status games we play. I mean, those aren't going to last. That comparison game where we're comparing someone's material wealth to mine, or maybe it's someone's gifts or talents to mine, someone's opportunities, open doors. That's not going to last. Why? Because we're going to see everything for what it really is into eternity. And that's not going to last, those comparison battles that we fight. But it's also interesting what will last into eternity. And I'm reminded of Revelations chapter 4, and I just want to read a couple verses to you. Revelations chapter 4, starting in verse 10. And the writer of Revelation, he was an early follower of Jesus called John, and he's describing a vision that he had, and the vision is about heaven. There's many things in Revelation, but right now he's writing about heaven, and here he's talking about elders, humans, in eternity, that are doing an act of worship, and I want to read that to you. Here's what it says. Chapter 4, verse 10. The 24 elders fall down before him who is seated on the throne and worship him who lives forever and ever. They cast their crowns before the throne, saying, "Worthy are you, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they existed and were created." One of the things I love about this verse is that it shows one of the things that lasts into eternity is worship. And another thing that lasts in eternity is giving. That isn't it amazing to think that the way we steward our natural resources now, that is actually something that will continue into eternity. And you know, as these elders, that shows their level of significance or authority, even in a heavenly space. They're not just giving wealth that they probably had in time and in eternity. They're giving a crown, which is a sign of so much more than that. It's a sign of their authority. It's a sign of perhaps inheritance. It's a sign of legacy. It's a sign of their accomplishments. It's a sign of victories that they won. It is a sign of their wealth. It's a sign really that encapsulates their whole life. And I want to tell you, not only is giving connected to our eternity, but giving is connected to our whole life. Jesus says that wherever your treasure is, there your heart is. And that idea of heart is the totality of who we are. We're there with it. And so what are we doing today? When we give, we're doing many things. One of the things we're doing is we're connecting to our eternal destiny, which is to continue to worship the God who's the source of everything. Everything we have came from him anyway. It's about worship. It's about gratitude. It's about thanksgiving. It's about telling ourselves, the world around us, and the God who made us, my hope is in you, the source of all things. That's what they were declaring. For you created all things, and by your will they existed and were created. You're the source of all of this anyway. It is our great joy, our exceeding joy, to give back to you just a portion of what you gave to us. Why are we giving today? We're giving in worship, in gratitude, and thanksgiving, because it's part of who we are down deep. It will be forever. And also because there's needs around us, that God wants to use us, He wants to partner with us in meeting needs in our city. So you can give today. Those details are on the screen, and you can give online, you can give by bank transfer, you can even give by text. So be sure to complete gift aid. If you've never completed a gift aid declaration, you can do that on our website. through our online giving or on our giving page. And that allows us to get tax that's been paid back from the home office. So really thankful for your giving, and thank you for partnering with all that's happening here in our faith family. You are the catalyst in partnering with God for what's happening through Ramp Church and in Ramp Church. Thank you for that. But now here we are. This is the final week of our Missional Life series. Can you believe it, Ramp Church? It's been such a journey. We're not going to leave this theme forever. Actually, we're going to be talking about it still a bit for some of the weeks to come, but this focused, dedicated chapter of focusing on the missional life, and especially in our communities midweek. This is our last week, so this next Wednesday is our last week of this season, this chapter of Ramp Communities. But such a fitting topic, because as we're looking towards in-person gatherings to come next week, it's going to take all of us saying yes to the mission that we know God has given this house, our corporate family. There's a mission that God's given us. It's bigger than any of us individually, but it takes all of us individually. So there's this bigger mission that you have a part to play in, and I have a part to play in. And we're actually going to go into a message that I spoke last Sunday night at our in-person worship and prayer gathering. And I felt so strongly about it after I gave it that I wanted to bring it into our Sunday morning space. And so we're going to show that message that was really just for the in-person audience there, but I want to bring it into our Sunday morning space because I think it's such an important word. It's a vital word for all of us who call Ramp Church home and who are looking to be a part of this Ramp Church journey in the days to come. So let's watch, and then I'm going to come back to you after the message to talk about what it specifically means for you and I. Enjoy. I'm going to talk about moving forward into what God has for us. So Ramp Church Manchester, we are moving forward. We're moving forward, and we're not going back. Anybody excited about that? We're not going back. I'm not saying there aren't beautiful things that happened, but we're going to build on top of all that God's done in the past, and we're moving forward. I'm reminded in Exodus when the children of Israel were leaving Egypt, and they are celebrating all that God had done. They had seen God break out in ridiculous ways leaving Egypt. But then they hit the Red Sea, and they come to a literal barrier in their journey. And they're standing there at the barrier, and then they look behind them to the hills, and they see the Egyptians have changed their mind. And they're running after them. Then they start to complain to Moses, going, "Hey, Mo, they're after us. Why would you have taken us out of Egypt if we were just to die in the wilderness?" You know the story, right? Come on. Are you alive, Ramp Church?
Yes, I'm alive.
Thank you. Come on. Thank you. So Exodus 14, I think, is the chapter roundabouts. Exodus 14, Israel's coming out of the wilderness. They see Egypt, and they're going, "What are you doing?" Isn't it amazing how fast we leave the plan of God? I mean, there were such significant miracles that happened in the nation of Israel and Egypt that for generations they told the same stories over and over. Did you grow up with a family member who had maybe seen things in God that they just, maybe it was a grandmother or an aunt, a great aunt, who would tell stories of, I've been around, I don't really have those stories in my family, but I've been around people, older people who followed God and have stories that just blow my mind and they stir my faith. I mean, they're still telling those stories just decades later. So Israel had just experienced some acts so significant that they would sing songs about it centuries later in the Psalms. They would tell, God even says, this is so significant, I want you to tell your kids, I want you to write it on your doorposts, never forget what I did. Well, it didn't take just but a few days. And it's easy to point the finger, but aren't we like that? Aren't we like that sometimes? It's like we've heard specific direction from God. We've heard a word from God. We start out on the path, things get tough, and we go, whoa. What? Didn't you say? I
I thought that this journey was covered by you. You called me to this. You gifted me to this. You told me this is my identity. This is my future. Why is there a sea in front of me? Why is there a Red Sea right here? And now my enemies are chasing me. If they're going to kill me, might as well kill me back there where I was enslaved. Why would you send me toward the promise only then to have me pursued again? And Moses tells the people, don't fear. This is the verse where he says, stand still and see the salvation of God. And then Moses goes to consult God, and then he says to Moses, why are you calling on me? As almost to say, I already gave you my word. Why are you asking me again about my will pertaining? I've already told you what I wanted to do in this. And then he says this, tell the people, go forward. Come on, that's a word for somebody today. Tell the people, go forward. I know you're standing in between a river that seems like you can't get through and an enemy that's on your heels, but the word that God has for you is go forward. You're not going back, you're going forward into what God has already declared over your life. And sometimes the first decision to follow God isn't the miraculous. That was God's part. God was who got Israel out of Egypt. And they went out with spoils. They went out with the treasure of Egypt. They didn't do that. They're halfway through the desert going, wow, how did we get all this stuff again? This wasn't on Gumtree. I didn't buy this. God put it in our bag. He put it in our carts, and we left Egypt with the riches of Egypt. That was God's part. Sometimes our first step is when we come to that place of challenge to just keep going forward. Come on, just keep going forward. Someone say, go forward. So we're moving forward. We're not going back. There's going to be some things that resemble where we've been, and there's nothing that can replace our history with God. That cannot be stolen from us. But God wants to write some new history through us, Ramp Church. Anybody believe it? Some new history. So tonight we're going to talk about, I'm just going to quickly dive into why we're moving forward, how we're moving forward, and then what's needed to move forward. Why we're moving forward, how we're moving forward, and what's needed to move forward. So by the end of this message, my desire is that we're kind of at the starting point to get a bit more practical next week with some of the specific needs that we have to really relaunch, in a sense, to move forward into what God has called us to do. So we're not going back, we're moving forward. So why we're moving forward? Why we're moving forward. And there's three reasons why. There's about 1 million reasons, but I want to talk about three. The first, those three are the need, the opportunity, and the grace. The need, the opportunity, and the grace. The need around us is reason enough to move forward. We talked a little bit about this last week, but we're in one of the fastest growing cities in Europe. 1,000 people a month, our population increases, net increase. That means it is mission imperative that the Church of Manchester grow. You hearing me? This is not vanity numbers. These aren't things that we get to share with our friends that go to other churches and talk about how big our church is. That stuff will not last in eternity. It doesn't matter. It's foolishness. Are you hearing me? It's mission critical. If we believe that God's called us to have, as the people of God, and this is far beyond Ramp Church. We just have one little slice of the kingdom, but I want to steward our slice well, all right? But if we believe that the church of Jesus is meant to have significance in the earth, to see God's kingdom ways advance in the culture around us, we've got to be taking ground. And that means growth is mission critical. Why? Because every number is a name. I know it's a cliche, but it is true. So the need is great. I was talking to a pastor friend recently who, they have a location in City Center. And on one evening, they were doing an evening service. They have their own building, so they've been able to stay open some during lockdown. There were some police officers that kind of made their way into the service kind of on accident. And so the greeters kind of greeted them, and then they caught some of the music, and then they kind of came into the back door and just stayed for a while, and then the pastor connected with them afterward. And the pastor, the pastor was a little nervous that maybe they were going to approach them about some of the COVID guidelines. If a police officer comes in during COVID lockdown, the first thought isn't, oh, he's here to worship. So the police officer started telling him sincerely, thank you so much for being open during this lockdown. I can't tell you how much this means. And then he started to explain how basically every negative statistic in the city is on the rise. Domestic abuse, substance abuse, and that it's every police officer is getting calls every shift. And it's to the point, and this is what the police officer said to the pastor, we literally don't know what to do with the need. Like, all we can do is just manage it. That's all we can do. Why is it imperative that we move forward as the church? Because the need calls for it. Because the need is calling for an answer that only heaven holds. Are you hearing me? Come on, are you awake tonight, Ramp Church? The need demands an answer that only heaven holds. And guess who has access to heavenly answers? Come on, it's the people of God who have access to heavenly answers. And I am so thankful for a government who works for political answers. And I'm not going to despise that. I'm so thankful for that. But we need something more. We need something beyond policy and great policing. We need a heavenly answer. So the need calls us forward. The opportunity calls us forward. There's more. Manchester has the highest concentration of university students than any city in Europe. Did you know that? If you drew a circle around Manchester that was an hour drive, there are 330,000 university students in that hour circle. Can you believe that? Do you know how many thousands of those come from nations that are closed to the gospel? And instead of us going there, which is really difficult, God's brought them here. Come on. God's brought them here. What if they can get awakened in an encounter with the presence of God and be sent back, not just as doctors or attorneys or accountants back to their closed nations, but as missionaries burning with the call of God. Come on, that is worth an applause. Called with the purpose and the gift and the Spirit of God on their lives. The opportunity is reason enough to move forward. The need is reason enough. But we don't just have a need, we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity. We have open doors. One of the things to me when I look back at our journey, the Ramp's journey in coming here to Manchester, I'm constantly amazed at the volume of God's words. It was just, they were consistent, they were regular, and they were loud. And, I've pastored people long enough to see most of our decisions, life-altering decisions, often come with much less. They come with like an impression. Like, why'd you get married? Did God speak to you? No, I just felt it. Okay, all right. You had a life-altering decision. You just felt it. Yeah. That's most of it, isn't it? Where I just feel the Holy Spirit just kind of moved me that direction. That's not how it was for us to come here as the Ramp. He had to get our attention. He had to interrupt what we were doing, and he had to open our mind and our heart to include other places in the world. And there were words like you would just blow your mind. Over a 12-year period, God was speaking. I've asked God before, why did you speak so loud? And I think there are several reasons, but one of the reasons is this, because I think we're in a window. We have an opportunity now as a nation. And God wants to seize that opportunity. One of the other reasons is I think intercessors have prayed for generations in this nation. The same prayer that Jesus told them to pray. The harvest is white. Pray for laborers to come to the harvest. So God said, well, they don't really know what they're doing. They're Americans, which is unfortunate, but hey, I'll take them. Let me tap on their shoulder and see, will you come over to Manchester? There's been some intercessors who have my ear, and they've been asking for laborers. They've been asking for help, and I think you may just be dumb enough to come over. Come on. We said, all right, God, we'll do it. We don't know what we're doing, but we'll do it. Why? Because the opportunity. There's a window of time. Why are we sending church planters already out from our church? We're not even 4 years old as a church. Aaron Hornback, who you just heard from, planting a church right now. Graham and Catherine Dunwell, 2 weeks ago, we sent them out planting a church. Why is this happening? Because the opportunity, the need and the opportunity demand that we move forward. Demand that we move forward. So there's a need, there's an opportunity. The third reason why we're moving forward is because of grace. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, the Apostle Paul said, by the grace of God, I am what I am. And then he went on to say how he works harder than everybody else. He was referring to all the other apostles. I work harder than all the other apostles. Then he says this, but it's not me, it's the grace of God inside of me. Why do we need to move forward? Because there are gifts and graces, Ramp Church, that God has given us that we haven't fully realized yet. And as good stewards of the grace, what the Bible calls the manifold wisdom of God, we have a demand on us by the Spirit of God to use the gifts of God wisely that He's given us. Would anybody in here say, every bit of gifting and grace in my life, I'm maxed out? I mean, potential. I'm redlining there. It's like, God, just give me some more gifts because I'm fully using everything you've given me. Is anybody in that boat? If you are, here you go. Here's a microphone because I'm sitting down, you're preaching tonight. Not me included, none of us are there. We're all on this search, on this journey to go, God, I want to be fully alive in who you've called me to be. Why do we need to move forward? Because there's grace of God that He's divinely given to us that we need to exercise. We need to be good stewards of the eternal empowerment of God that He's released to us. Why? Because we're going to give an account at the end of this whole thing. What did you do with what I gave you? So why do we need to move forward? Because of the grace, because of the need, because of the opportunity, because of the grace. How? How do we move forward? How do we move forward? Well, there's many ways. I want to focus on a few different ways that we're going to move forward. Just a few here. And most of these are relational. Most of these are relational because we've been having church for the past 15, 16 months online. But what's different is we haven't been in a space all together. And we have had communities midweek, which has been an incredible source of relational nourishment for all of us. I think it has been, I've said this and I'm going to continue saying because I believe it, I think it's been the most vibrant aspect of Ramp Church over the past 15 or 16 months has been our community. So if you've only ever experienced Ramp Church online on a Sunday morning, just want to encourage you, get into a community, into a Ramp community. It is life-changing. So I want to talk about how we move forward pertaining to the area of serving. So last week I outlined kind of our fivefold strategy, what I feel like even David getting 5 smooth stones from the brook on his way to topple the giant. And our 5 main areas that we're going to move forward in Ramp Church: gatherings, communities, prayer, giving, and serving. And so I'm not going to revisit all that, but you can go back and listen to last week where I dove deep into that. So I want to focus on that serving bit tonight. And the reason I want to focus on that is because just a couple weeks from now, unless something changes in the lockdown rules, we're going to be meeting on Sunday mornings at Ramp Church. Anybody excited about that? Yes. So we are actively and have been for weeks and weeks on a venue hunt. So continue to keep us in prayer about that. We were meeting at Stretford Grammar School before lockdown. And because of some ongoing building work, they have let us know with not as much notice as I would have loved to had that we're not going to be able to continue to meet there. But that's okay. God saw this coming, right? And thankfully, He'd already started speaking to many of you about the building topic here at Ramp Church. Even some of our youth, some of the strongest words about our future building have come through our youth, Ramp Youth. So thank you, Ramp Youth, for helping just kind of be the spearheading hearing from God on the building need. And I believe what that told me is God's involved. Sometimes, isn't that just what you want to know? Like, where are you, Lord? I mean, I just need to know you're here. I don't actually need to know every detail on what you're up to. I just want to know, are you involved in this? And when you start to hear him speak, you go, okay, you're involved. I don't understand what you're doing, but I'm really thankful you're here and you're guiding us. So we don't yet have a venue solution. We have contacted been in touch with dozens of venues to find the right location, the right space that meets our needs, the right availability at the right price. And so we are continuing to search. We have 2 venue viewings tomorrow, and we're just continue to put pressure on that. So please, if the Holy Spirit brings that to your mind, you know why now. It's because we need a solution. But we believe God's going to bring it. And the next thing that we need is ultimately we need to rebuild the serving aspect of what we do at Ramp Church. And because we know that the church is a family, we're a faith family, then when we get together on Sunday mornings, that's a time where we serve each other. It's kind of like coming together for a Christmas meal. You know, I go back to we go back to the States generally once a year, and it's often around Christmas time. And when I go into my mom's kitchen, I'm 39 years old, but when I go into my mom's kitchen, I'm going to help prepare the meal. I mean, that's all there is to it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what church, what size my church is, or how successful I've been. When I go home, I'm doing whatever it is I do during the Christmas meal to prepare that meal, because that's what I do, right? That's my part in the family. And I don't go, Mom, I'm sorry, I'm overqualified for this. Right? You don't know. Can I just send you, before we get there, Mom, can I email you my resume? Just so you can put me on the exact right part of preparing the Christmas meal. It doesn't work that way. No, but I don't even think about that, do I? Because I'm not wondering what do I do. I'm wondering who am I a part of? This is my family, and I want to love and serve them. And so I just go, whatever it takes. I just want to be around you. The only reason I'm here peeling potatoes is because I love my family, right? I'm not even thinking about, am I peeling potatoes? I'm just loving on my family. I'm just glad I'm with my mom. I'm glad my grandkids, my mom's grandkids are around her. I don't have grandkids yet, guys. I know I look 15, but so serving is a huge part of what it means to be the family of God. And one of the things I've absolutely loved about lockdown is I feel it's broken us out of this tendency, this habit to be a Sunday-centric church. That everything we do is focused around an hour and a half on a Sunday morning, and all this time and effort builds up to make this happen. And then everything afterwards, processing what happened, and can we make that better? And man, there's so much merit in that. I so believe in the gathered spaces of the people of God. There's nothing that I think can replace what happens in that space. But there's also nothing that can replace what happens in communities and in relationship. There's also nothing that can replace what happens when we get out into our city. There's also nothing that can replace what happens when you're fully alive in your workplace or in your family, in your uni. There's nothing that can replace that. But I don't want to so break us out of the Sunday-centric kind of thing that we don't see the value in serving each other in that space. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to swing the pendulum all the way the other way where there's no value in the gathered space. No, there's something that happens when we focus on the ministry of the Word, the ministry of worship, and the ministry of the Holy Spirit. And for us, God gave us a picture early on, before we even planted Ramp Church, that Sunday mornings is setting a table for our city. Remember that language? If you've been on a serve team before, Steve Jones, you remember this, setup teams early in the morning. Steve's been with us since the beginning, since before the beginning. Steve's been with us. We use that language. We're setting a table for our city this morning. And that's what it looks like to serve. We're setting a table for each other, but also for our city to come and drink. Come and drink freely from the waters of life. That's what we're doing, and that's what our serve teams are about. So I want to talk about our core commitments in our serve teams. And some of this is about shifting responsibility. I even want you to have a new framework as we enter into this new season of serving. And then I'm going to give you some practicals on what to do next. These are our core commitments. One of the things I want to do, I want to shift moving forward in Ramp Volunteering is this is a core commitment, I want to respect our capacity. Say capacity. Have you ever been a part of serving at a church and it feels like every interaction is someone begging you to serve or volunteer somewhere? Have you ever been involved there? You're like, oh my heavens, please stop. Can we just be together for a minute, right? And when we launched Ramp Church 3.5 years ago, our vision was to launch with a fully functioning church. So we had a launch team that started off in our living room with Stacy, my kids, and I, and 3 people. And so my family outnumbered the people who attended that first meeting in my living room. And so then we grew from our living room, and we outgrew that space, and then we moved right over here, actually, next door to the coffee shop at the Mess Cafe. Anybody walk into the coffee shop over there instead of over here thinking that was Ramp Church? Yeah, Garrett, sorry, my man, sorry. That's our friends Kingdom Company, who are planting a church in Northern Quarter. But they're starting their launch team meetings right over here in Mess Cafe. So let's just bless them. And I do just now. I just even want to pray for them. Father, bless Kingdom Company. And I just thank you for the work that you're doing through that church and the amazing things that you have planned for Northern Quarter. And I'm just so thrilled, Father, that you have called that beautiful, beautiful church, that beautiful couple, to be Matthew and Claire Hooper, to be lights in this city, and we love you for that, Father, in Jesus' name. So yeah, we moved to that, and then we went from there to Stretford Grammar. So our vision was to launch with a fully functioning church. So we had teams, every team, and we're going to max out every team. We're going to have kids ministry. We're not going to start with no kids ministry and go, someday we're going to have kids ministry. We're not going to start with no prayer. No prayer meetings. We're going to start with prayer meetings, every fully functioning church. And that meant you launch with stretch in mind. We're going to call everybody to stretch. But sometimes you so get in a stretch mentality that you forget I actually have a capacity. And sometimes that capacity is God-given. Are you with me? Sometimes it's seasonal. I believe God's always calling us to a gentle stretch. I'll get to that in a second. But I want to respect that capacity. You know what that means moving forward is sometimes what we do on a Sunday morning in our gathered spaces may be trimmed down a bit based on our capacity and our serve teams. And so I don't want us to get upset if we show up one day and there's no coffee. Well, nobody signed up to serve. I love what Pastor Chris Hodges says. He says, we grow at the speed of your participation and your generosity. We grow at the speed of your participation and your generosity. This is not I'm not a CEO. This is not an organization that's like, we're driving forward regardless. This is a family. This is a family, and it requires something authentic to come from the inside of us to go, man, we want to sign up we want to be a part of this. Not a few people busting all their energy and their bodies to call and fill rotas and make things happen, and they were on setup team, and they were on tea and coffee, and they were on kids check-in, and then they ran up and helped with the kids, and then they came down and were on the prayer team to finish out the service, and then you know what they did? They packed up at the end. And they do that every Sunday, and then 6 months later, they're burnt out. Let's not create that. Let's create a volunteering atmosphere. And we so believe in this, we've actually changed our church management software system. And this new software system better facilitates this vision. I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. But that's how much we believe in this. So our core commitments, respect our capacity. Number 2, pursue healthy stretching. Pursue healthy stretching. What do I mean by that? I mean, sometimes the place God wants to take you is inside the committed stretch. The strength doesn't come before the commitment. Do you hear me? The strength comes after the covenant. It's why people always feel before they have kids, am I ready for kids? No, you're never ready for kids. Ever. You can have one and you're like, well, the second one's coming, I'm ready. No, you're not, because you never had 2 kids. You hearing me? You're never ready. The preparation comes in the commitment, in the stretch. I promise you, I would not prepare 40 messages a year if I wasn't pastoring a church. It's not like God looked at me and went, yeah, you're writing a lot of sermons. You should pastor a church. What came was the commitment. God called me to commit to, hey, there's going to be people showing up, sometimes hundreds of them, and they want to hear what God's saying to them as a church. And I went, okay, what now? And he goes, you tell them. You tell them. Then the message comes. The commitment came first. And so there is a healthy stretch zone for you. You with me? So I want to protect capacity, and we're going to build at the speed of your participation and your generosity. That means we're not going to get up to our eyeballs in debt and say, God called us to do this. That's not going to. No, we're going to grow at the speed of your generosity, your participation. But there's also going to be a healthy stretch. Why? Because God always calls you to do something you can't do. Always, every time. Every time. Because without faith, it's impossible to please God. And when I get into that stretch zone, what's happening is I'm getting into the space where I know, God, if you don't show up, this is going to flop. I mean, the title on the video is going to be Worst Worship Service Ever on YouTube. That's what it's going to be, if you don't show up. That's when you're living in the stretch zone. If you're not there, I would question, how close are you to following Jesus? Because Jesus is always pushing us out of the boat. Respect our capacity. Pursue healthy stretching. It can be unhealthy. And then number 3, this has to go with those first 2. I'm going to trust you to say no. Sometimes we're overly sensitive in serving, like, I know what else they're doing, and I can't. And that is just too much effort. I don't know your boundaries, and I can't keep 300 people's boundaries in my mind. Are you with me? We've got to just trust you to go, I just can't, I'm just not able. I just can't in this season. I can't at this time. And we've had people do that before, and I'm like, cool, yeah, all right. And then we've had people go, no, let's do this. I want to be there every single week. All right, come on. Come every single week. It's life-giving for me. This is what, we've had people who have said, I've restructured my life to give more capacity to Ramp Church. I had somebody tell me that last week. I feel that I'm reordering, that God's put it on my heart to change up the capacity and what I'm committed to in other areas, because I'm meant to give a larger capacity to Ramp Church. We have to trust you to say no. Respect capacity, pursue healthy stretching, trust you to say no. Continual improvement, that's our core commitment. We're always going to try to get better. So I'm not saying your serving experience is going to be amazing. I'm going to say it's always going to be better than the last time. That's my commitment. 6 months from now, it's going to be better than it is this 6 months. And then this is our core commitment for all, and this is what I want to pour into all of our serve teams. This is, I live this way. I want us to have owners' hands, and stewards' hearts. Owners' hands and stewards' hearts. I grew up my family was in retail. So in retail, you work weekends and holidays. It's just part of it. If you've ever been involved in retail, anybody worked in retail before? Yeah. Or even the food industry, it's similar. It's like you work weekends, and Saturdays came around, like I never thought like Saturday was an off day. It's like, no, you work, like that is the busiest day of the week. That's when people come in, is on Saturday. So it was in my psyche, it was just in a habit, I'm working on Saturday. That's what you do, is just you work then. But we were owners of small businesses, and owners do stuff, they don't have job descriptions, because this is what their job description says, everything. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what time it is, where it is, how long, how far, how much it costs. It's just like, I'm there. I do whatever it takes. That's owner's hands. What would it look like if across Ramp Church, there was a community of people that took ownership over the work of God with their hands? And I just, whatever it takes. I'm not looking, am I gifted for that? Am I not? I'm not even looking at that. Do I own it? Yes. Then I'm saying yes. I'm signing up. I'm here. I'm for. But we have stewards' hearts. What does that mean? At any moment, it can change, and I'm not married to it. In my heart, I remind myself of this all the time. God, and I tell God this sometimes. God, Ramp Church isn't mine, it's yours. If you ask me to step down tomorrow, my answer, I tell him this. I tell God this. My answer is yes. Why? Because this isn't mine. My identity's not wrapped up in this. This isn't my source of provision. This isn't my source of fulfillment or satisfaction. That's you. And if you feel I'm better used to your kingdom somewhere else, you just give me the word, I'm there. I don't want that to put a lack of confidence in you about my future here. I believe God's told me to be here. But I'm just saying that's about heart posture. Are you with me? Owner's hands, I'll do whatever it takes. But steward's hearts, you can change my role at any time. I'm game. Whatever you want. If you want me to prophesy, I'll prophesy. If you don't want me to prophesy, I won't prophesy. If you want me to check kids in, I'll check kids in. If you don't want me to check kids, anytime. Owner's hands, steward's hearts. The next thing is core behaviors. I'm gonna move through these quickly. Core behaviors. We have core commitments, core behaviors pertaining to serving. The first one is show up. I love what Mother Teresa says. Just show up and things will happen. Isn't that great? Sometimes just your presence means things are going to happen. I'm there. I'm here. I've showed up. I'm in the room. Number 2, start by leading yourself. I am the hardest person for me to lead, I promise, because I am so familiar with all my excuses and all the reasons why I can't and shouldn't. And start by leading yourself. Number 3, I hope you're writing this down because this is too much just to remember in your brain. Number 3, be the church you wished you had. I wish that could be I wish that could be a default response when somebody has an idea. I go, okay, you be the church you wish you had. That's not our job. This is our church, right? Let's be the church we wished we had. Number 4, ask yourself, confront, or cover. There's too much here for me to dive into all of this, but this is about relating to one another. When we love one another, we always ask ourselves, confront, or cover. This needs to be a core behavior in our serve teams. Go to the source. Can this be a gossip-free zone? Can we just declare that? Gossip-free zone. Go to the source. Yes, that is worthy of a hand clap right there. If you've ever been the recipient of being gossiped about, you are going to put your hands together for that. Let's be a gossip-free zone. If you haven't said it to them, don't say it to somebody else. Go to the source. Go to the source. Be ruthless against jealousy. Be ruthless against jealousy. Can I just get practice? This is too practical for you. In our serve teams, we need to be ruthless against jealousy. How can we be that way in our hearts? Because we trust, as Psalm says, the heart of the king is in the hand of the Lord, and he moves it wherever he wants. So we trust that someone else's promotion was God-given, and I'm not going to be jealous for that promotion. Are you hearing me? Sometimes you're over here going, God, what about me? I mean, look at them. Look at Aaron. He got up and I've never spoken from the platform. You give me words before. Why Joe's never called me up there? Well, protect your heart. The heart of the king's in the hand of the Lord. You just got to trust your journey in God's hands. James says where there's selfish ambition and envy, there is every evil work. Careful about that envy. It's not a light thing. It's a doorway that's inviting the enemy to come and set up camp. Be ruthless against jealousy and envy. And then 7, let's grow in maturity. I love what Stacy says. Your level of maturity is shown by how you respond to someone else's immaturity. Your level of maturity is shown by how you respond to someone else's maturity. To me, the definition of maturity is this. When I'm mature, I use my strength to benefit those that are weak. It's not the ability to identify everybody else's weakness. That's what we think maturity is. I see that weakness in her. Let's have a prayer meeting about it, right? Let's go pray for her. No, that's not it. It's covering weakness with my strength. So, core commitments, core behaviors, and then finally, what's needed to move forward. I promise this section will not be as long as the last ones. What's needed to move forward? What's needed to move forward? And basically, here's what I'm looking at for our next season of launching, of moving forward. I want us to look in a 3-month window. And in many ways, we are relaunching. This is a relaunching of the church. New serve teams, new venue, new location, and all of these things are fresh and new. There's going to be a lot of people who have discovered Ramp Church in lockdown who have never been to a physical gathering before. If you discovered Ramp Church for the first time in lockdown, can I see your hand? Just raise your hand. Okay. Yes, that is amazing. We hear from people nearly every week that have, come on. that have discovered Ramp Church in lockdown. I was meeting people last week who came to the gathering last week that says we've been with you since October. Like, this is our first time meeting. This is so strange. People have been telling me over the past few weeks, I feel like I've seen you. I'm like, so good to see you. They're like, I've seen you. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, it's good to see you because I haven't seen you. So we are relaunching. We're removing into the mission field. We're setting a new table for our city. So I want us to look at the next 3 months. And as we start to talk about serve teams in a more practical way next week, I want us to think about a 3-month block. Now, that's a lot, but I'm going to call us to this because I think this is the next place for us. If we can go, I can commit to a 3-month launch window to give it as much as I can, to put myself in that healthy stretch, to prepare ourselves where we can start to build up our serve teams in that 3-month window, that come kind of the middle of autumn, we'll be able to continue with strength and get more healthy, sustainable rotas. Does that make sense? My heart is that people who feel like, man, I want to serve, but I only want to serve once a month. My heart is that there's enough rotas, enough people on a rota to make that happen. And there's some of you that are like, I love serving. I look forward to it all week. And that is what I live for, is to come on a Sunday morning and play my part in setting a table. And I want to be on every week. And then we're going to be like, well, can you take off every once in a while? Because you need to just attend sometimes. And that's going to be our response to that. But the more people that are a part of that journey, of this launch experiment, the easier the rotas are going to be, right? So if we can commit to a 3-month block starting with our first in-person gathering, which would be July 25th.
July 25th. Can you believe it? 1 week till the return of full in-person gatherings at Ramp Church. I'm so excited that you're going to be a part. Like I said there, our vision is to have a 3-month perspective on this next season of relaunching these in-person gatherings. And I really feel like this is a moment similar to our launch. When we launched, it's almost been 4 years ago, there was a group of people that caught the vision of what God wanted to do to reach a city through this faith community, and had the audacity to give a unique commitment in that season to see it launched. And that's what I feel like about this next 3 months for you and for me, is there's going to be a unique commitment to get this off the ground. And then what I feel like is going to happen is the momentum from that is going to carry us into this next season, when at the end of 3 months and we do new signups for serve teams, we can do that at a more sustainable pace. So I'm really looking forward to that. So what do you need to do? Well, you really just one thing. Go to ramp.church/MCR. All the details are there. It's right on the main banner, right there on the home page. And I have a short little description there, a short little video that's going to tell you what to do. So ramp.church/MCR. Every person watching has a place in this vision. We have big dreams that are bigger than any of us individually, but every person individually has a part to play, and every person's part matters. So thank you for being a part of this dream from God that He's granted, He's gifted, He's graced us here as a faith family to be able to walk out. So the next step for this next season, Ramp Church, is to set a table for our city, to experience the presence of God, to get equipped in their purpose, to find freedom, and then to be sent to do what they've been called to do in their worlds. You are loved. Thank you for being a part of this morning service. I'm going to see you right over at ramp.church/MCR. Talk soon.